Hi, I'm Rich Spock Armstrong, and welcome to the MAMI Musical Scale Atlas tutorial. If you study or teach keyboards, guitar, bass, theory, or even compose with band-in-a-box type backing software, I'm going to show you how MAMI can help you to accomplish your tasks better, easier, and faster. MAMI scale and chord instrument charts are unique. They're the world's best and only integrated diagrams containing maximum information to master every subject, chord, and scale. The average note chart diagram is single octave, and it's great for beginners, but it's going to be limiting in the long run. What's better is if you can find a multiple octave note chart, which will allow you to find intervals and play the subject's chord or scale throughout the entire instrument. What's even better is if you can find multiple octave note and interval charts that are stacked together. This way you can analyze both the notes and the intervals plus the inversions and modes throughout the entire instrument range. MAMI is unbeatable because it gives you the multiple octave tandem charts, but it also gives you 8 other ways to actually learn and master and study any subject, chord, and scale. The MAMIMUSIC Scale Atlas Complete Version book and download contains 540 integrated subject, chord, and scale pages. On the left is a piano keyboard sample page, and on the right is a bass guitar or guitar sample page. We also include diatonic tunes, 46 of them in MP3 format, along with their lead sheets on disc or for download with your purchase. You can visit www.mamimusic.com or click on the blue link to learn more. So let's go back to basics for a moment. Whether studying, learning, teaching, or composing with chords or scales on your instrument, you have to answer some basic, simple, and critical questions to be able to maximize your time and effort and master what you're studying. We're going to analyze the C major flatted fifth bebop scale a little bit later on, but what's important is to understand the basic questions. What are the notes of the chord or scale that you're studying? What are the interval relationships of the notes within the chords and scales that you're studying? Where are the chords or scale notes located throughout your entire instrument? And last but not least, what is the musical potential of that chord or scale? In other words, how can you make and find the musical ideas and meaningful music on the instrument using that scale? As an example, I'm going to show you how the integrated information on the MAMIMUSIC Scale Atlas page will help you to master the C major 7th with the natted flatted 5th bebop scale that you see here. It's important to understand a couple of things about the MAMI Musical Scale Atlas pages. They're designed to help you to learn, teach, create, improvise, and compose. Basically to find fresh new ideas on your instrument. MAMI unlocks the mysteries of scales so that you can find all of the interesting melodies and harmonies contained within. You don't need to sight read to use MAMI Musical Scale Atlas pages. MAMI actually helps you to apply creative thinking and helps you to generate creative thinking using the integrated concepts and diagrams. If you take a moment to learn MAMI, you will have results for a lifetime. You can start out as a beginner and use MAMI. You can be a master and still learn many things from a MAMI Musical Scale Atlas page. So the MAMI Musical Scale Atlas Complete Version book and download is a 572-page reference that you'll use for life. It's 540 essential scales broken down into 108 arpeggios, 9 arpeggios times 12 root notes, 160 pentatonics, 15 pentatonics times 12 root notes, 252 scales. That's 21 essential scales times 12 root notes. So there's a whole lot of musical information to study. We analyze all 540 scales in 8 ways visually, so that you can find and create new harmonies and melodies much easier and quicker. Every subject scale and chord's modal, melodic, and harmonic options are thoroughly explored visually through our format. We give you examples for creative scale and mode use in musical context, and we also give you the diatonic music scale MP3s so that you can hear the musical potential of many of the subjects that you want to study. Using MAMI musical scale atlases as a guide will give you the power of all of those scales, arpeggios, and chords throughout the entire range of your instrument. The MAMI one-of-a-kind 10-way integrated visual page format allows you to literally see the notes, arpeggios, chords, inversions, as well as the modes that exist in the subject scale. Each version is optimized to visually represent the keyboard or fingerboard for the instrument that you play. Whether you play keyboards, bass, or guitars in 6 or 7 string, left or right hand tunings, we offer a version for you. Currently we offer 14 different instrument and tuning versions. So how do you use a MAMI musical scale atlas? Well, versions of the MAMI musical scale atlas have been created to support studying and teaching on the keyboard, as well as bass guitar, with a BEA DGC version that allows studying and teaching on a 4, 5, or 6 string bass, plus right and left hand guitar in EAD GBE tuning, DAD GAD tuning, ADG CEA or alto tuning, and also 7-string tunings including the BEA DGBE tuning and the AE ADGBE tuning, as well as the M3 tuning E A flat C E A flat C E. Using MAMI is actually simpler than it appears. It takes a moment to grasp the concept, but once you get it, you're hooked for life. We're going to see step by step in the following slides. Alright, so when studying, learning, and teaching chords and scales, we talked about it earlier, but the challenge on the way to mastery is how to actually use any music scale or chord on your instrument in meaningful, creative ways. So, what music is contained within the scale that you see? Can you find all of its chords, inversions, modes, patterns, etc. easily? The C major scale with an added flatted fifth will be our demonstration subject scale for this tutorial. It contains 8 notes, the 7 notes of the conventional C major scale, plus it adds a G flat note to allow for some very interesting harmonic and melodic ideas. Using MAMI, I'll show you how to find as well as use this scale and these ideas on your instrument, plus let you hear an original composition using ideas that I've found from this scale. All scales have musical potential. The MAMI musical scale atlases help you to find this potential, then experiment and create on the instrument easily. What you see here is an overview of the MAMI musical scale atlas page for our subject C major 7 scale with the added flatted fifth note. It's diagrammed for piano and keyboard instruments. The MAMI complete version book and download has 540 such pages. 45 essential chords and scales times 12 root notes. This provides a lifetime of learning and teaching. Now let's look at each individual page element separately. Above left is a sample page from the keyboard version as we saw just earlier. Check out the keyboard note and interval diagrams on top. Below these diagram elements are the MAMI cubes, which we will cover and explain in detail with larger images shortly. On the above right is a sample page from the right-hand standard tune guitar version. Note the guitar optimized fingerboard note and fingerboard interval diagrams on top. The visual format is consistent on each page with each version. Click the banner above to download the full-size sample image for your instrument free so you can follow along. And here are the same images that are a little bit larger. I encourage you to download the images for your instrument so that you can follow along a little bit easier. Okay, so let's get to it. Here's the MAMI Musical Scale Atlas 10-way analysis format. At the top of each page is the name of the subject scale. Below this is the text note listing, which lists all of the notes contained in the subject scale starting from the root note. Then just below the text note listing is the text interval listing, which lists all the interval relationships of the subject scale's notes in relationship to the root. We're going to talk about elements 1 and 2, the note and interval fingerboard and keyboard chart diagrams. They are critical and they uniquely distinguish the MAMI musical scale atlases from all other reference books. Element 1 are the note, keyboard, or fingerboard diagrams. These show the exact placement of the subject scale's notes as they exist on the instrument. They allow you to see at a glance exactly what the notes are and, more importantly, where they are located so that they are found on your instrument with ease. Elements 2 are the interval keyboard or fingerboard diagrams. With these elements you can see the interval relationships of the subject scale's intervals in relationship with the root tone. This gives you the power to see, form, and play all of the melodies, arpeggios, and chords, plus inversions that exist. Just the combination of these two elements alone places tremendous creative power over both the scale and the instrument into your hands. But hang on, we're just starting to describe the groundbreaking MAMI elements. Here you can see the tandem note and interval charts better. Whether keyboard, bass, or guitar version, each MAMI page starts with the name, notes, intervals, and an instrument chart diagram of the subject chord or scale being studied. Here's a larger view of our MAMI keyboards diagram, note chart, and interval chart diagrams. Check out the 2-octave keyboard diagrams that allow for creative experimentation, including using inversions and modes. Here you can see the MAMI bass guitar fingerboard, note, and interval chart diagrams. Please remember that the BEA DGC tuned fingerboard diagrams provide support for 4, 5, and 6-string basses. Finally, here's the MAMI guitar note and interval chart diagrams that are available in popular tunings for 6 and 7-string left and right hand guitar fingerboards. These fingerboard diagrams and keyboard diagrams are a tremendous place to start, and they work for anyone, beginner through a master, to unlock the note and interval and inversion and modal potential on the instrument. Alright, so let's talk about the next 3 elements that are integrated into the MAMI format and based on the matrix cubes. It's great to know the notes of a subject scale from the root tone, but it's even better to be able to see all of its modes and their melodic potential as well. With element 3, the matrix modal cube, you get a visual element that lets you see at a glance what each note of the scale is in a modal format. Simply by viewing the cube from left to right allows the note sequence using every potential scale note to be revealed quickly, accurately, and effectively. Using the matrix modal cube as a standard, you can easily begin to think modally about the scale and apply its potential to create more interesting melodic musical ideas. The potential for melodic creativity is endless with this cube, and we're going to explore this further and see how. So, the MAMI modal, chordal, and harmonic cubes look a little strange, and they probably are, but They're logical visual references that interpret the subject chord or scale that's being studied, and they allow you to quickly and easily and literally see inside the subject scale or chord to find all possible modal, harmonic, as well as cycle of fourths relationships that are present. They're actually simple. They're read across a single line from left to right. Taking a few minutes to learn will yield a lifetime of powerful musical analysis. So, using the MAMI modal cube. The MAMI modal cube is used to discover the note and interval values that occur when using any note that's present in the subject scale as a root tone. In other words, you're trying to look at the subject's modes. Unlike with any other reference, MAMI lets you easily see the modal relationships of any subject quickly and at a glance. If you take a look at the first line, you'll see that the root note is the C, and then the second is a D. You have a third, which is an E, a fourth, which is an F, a flatted fifth, which is G flat, a fifth, which is a G, a sixth, which is an A note, and a seventh, which is a B. If you go down and you look at the second degree, you have the D is the root note, the E as a second, the F is a flatted third, the G flat is a third, the G is a fourth, the A is a fifth, the B is a sixth note, and the C is a flatted seventh, and so on and so forth. So it becomes very easy to see from each degree of the scale what the modal potential is, and that's the power of the MAMI modal cube. We'll explore the other cubes very shortly. Our fourth integrated element is the matrix chordal cube, and this is a favorite. Very powerful. If you think about scales for a while, you realize it's not nearly enough to know what the scale's notes are or where they're even located. You need to know what the potential to create or express chords, basically harmonies, are. With element 4, the matrix modal cube, you have a visual element that lets you see at a glance what potential chords can be played through using that scale, and also from a modal perspective. Like the previous cube, you have the ability to see all of the dyads, triads, arpeggios, and chords that are present from each scale root tone, and gives you an unbelievable advantage. Simply by viewing this chord from left to right allows you to see the interval sequence, therefore the chords, using every potential scale note that can be revealed quickly, accurately, and effectively. Using the matrix chordal cube as a standard, you could easily begin to think harmonically about the scale and apply its potential to create more interesting melodic musical ideas and harmonic ideas forever. Chordal creative potential becomes endless. Using the MAMI chordal cube. The MAMI chordal cube is used to discover the chord tones, the note and interval values that occur when using any note present in the subject as a root tone. All the subject's chords plus the inversions are shown. Unlike with any other reference, MAMI easily lets you see the chord tone relationships at a glance for any subject scale. So when we take a look, once again it's read from left to right, and you see you have a C, which is the root, a third, which is the E, a flatted fifth, which is a G flat, and a fifth, which is a G. You have a major seventh, which is a B note, and you have a ninth, which is a D, an 11th, which is an F, and a 13th, which is an A note. If you look at the second degree, you have the D is a root note. You have a flatted third or minor third as an F note. A major third is a G flat note. So already you can create basically a D minor or a D major with this chord. You have a fifth, which is an A note. You have a flatted seventh, which is a C note. You have a ninth, which is an E note, an 11th, which is a G note, and a 13th, which is a B note, and so on and so forth. So once again, you can see all of the chords that you could create with this scale from every root quickly and easily. It's a very powerful advantage. Okay, so our final integrated cube element is element 5, the matrix harmonic cube. It's a visual element that functions as an optimized musical cycle of force reference. It provides a theoretical guide as to potential logical movement of a subject scale's chords in fourths, like a 2-5-1 or a 5-1 or a 6-2-5-1 progression. Simply by viewing this cube from left to right allows you to see the fourths interval sequence that are present from each mode of the subject scale. And so when you combine this with the chordal cube, it's possible to find some interesting musical harmonic movements within the scale. Once again, quickly, accurately, easily, and effectively. The use of this cube is indeed theoretical, since there are many effective ways to create harmonic motion. This is just another tool that's contained within the MAMI format, and it helps you to think harmonically about the scale and apply potential creatively and find more interesting chordal motions. So I use this cube sometimes, but I also think on a broader level about connecting chords. So this is a helpful cube, but probably out of the three, the most theoretical cube. Using the MAMI harmonic cube. The MAMI harmonic cube is used to discover any possible cycle of force relationships that occur when using any note present in the subject as a root tone, and it's great for experimentation. You can kind of look at the force movements and see if you can find some effective melodic and harmonic chordal movements. It's good to play around with. Some of the interesting things here is if you look at the very first line here, you have a force movement from C to F that's possible from the first degree. If you go down to the flatted fifth degree, you actually see that you have a ton of force movements starting from the G flat to the B to the E to the A to the D to the G to the C and to the F. And so once again, you could play around with this and create harmonies and melodies based on these force movements in the scale. So it's something that you experiment with and you play around with, and hopefully you find some good ideas. Alright, so let's discuss the next set of elements that are integrated into the MAMI format, the MAMI descriptive text plus analysis section. Whether or not you use the cubes, the harmonic or modal or chordal cubes, we still give you the text and the information that allows you to quickly interpret the musical essence and suggest creative uses for subject chords and scales that are being studied. You can combine this information with the fingerboard and keyboard diagrams to allow for unlimited improvisational ideas to be learned on your instrument, and also to come up with some creative ideas of your own. We provide a complete text description of each subject scale. These descriptions point out distinguishing characteristics that are uniquely present within the subject scale, such as special interval relationships, its sound, or the usage. You can read about interesting features and characteristics which can help you decide on the scale's suitability for a specific musical application. So this is helpful when you're trying to create. You don't have to learn every 540 scales in the book, but if you look through the book and you see scales that you wonder, hey, how can I use this thing musically? The text descriptions along with the cubes really give you an idea pretty quickly and easily how you can use these things for creative experimental use. An example of the MAMI scale descriptive text element for our subject, the C major seventh with an added flatted fifth note, is below. MAMI provides insight into the logical uses for each scale in this way as a handy guide towards learning, teaching, as well as to assist with the creative exploration with the subject scale. We help you to quickly, easily decode the music within all chords and scales in ways that have never been possible or available in any musical reference. If you look, you'll see that the C major scale with the added flatted fifth, and I say it's not your dad's major scale. The addition of the G flat as a passing tone creates some really interesting melodic as well as harmonic possibilities, and they extend from all the modes. You can spice up a 2-5-1 progression by using the flatted fifth as melodic coloration or as a harmonic pivot to build and discharge tension within a 2-5-1 motion. And if you're sharp using the MAMI, you can spot a great harmony based on the G flat to C tritone interval. And so we'll look at that closely a little bit later on. On to the sixth element integrated into the MAMI format, the text sample harmonies. Another feature of all MAMI musical scale atlas versions and pages are the text sample harmonies. They are designed to assist you by providing brief sample musical ideas to try when experimenting with a subject scale. Through our analysis, we provide sample melodic and chord pattern text descriptions to capture the musical essence of each subject scale. These descriptions help you by providing a basis for experimentation. The purpose is to make the distinguishing characteristics of the scale, such as its special interval relationship, sound, or usage, musically accessible. The text sample harmonies simply help to guide you to play musically through a scale's potentials. They are designed as a logical springboard to create your own uses for any subject scale. Once again, the ideal purpose of MAMI is to provide you with the capability to apply music scales for the creation of your own music and to experiment with scales and chords to make your own music and to work with your own sounds. Now let's take a look at the integrated MAMI scale sample harmonies test for our subject, the C major 7th with an added flatted 5th note. If you look at our sample harmonies there, and there are many good ones to try to experiment around with on your own, we actually have a D7 to a G7 to a G flat minor 7 flatted 5 to a C major 7. And basically this is a takeoff from a 2-5-1, D minor 7 to a G7 to a C major 7, where the G flat note allows us to actually form a D7 chord that we can move to a G7, which we can actually move now to a G flat minor 7 flat 5, and then resolve that to a C major 7. So we kind of spiced up a garden variety 2-5-1 and made it even more interesting and more creative. This is an example of using the extra tone, the G flat note, to break out of a conventional major pattern or lick. You can play melodic lines that emphasize the G flat tone and its interval relationships to the scale harmonies. And you should try it, experiment around with it, and you could do this with any scale that is any of the 540 scales that are in MAMI. Just play around and experiment and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and we give you some great sample harmonies as well as with the MP3 audio tunes, diatonic tunes. You can learn to hear some great musical ideas. The seventh integrated element featured on MAMIMUSIC pages are the text interval analysis charts. They're unique, great, and useful features. They're designed to assist you by providing a count of all the intervals that exist within a subject scale. So why is this useful? If you consider that interval relationships and intervals are what provide the musically distinguishing characteristics of the scale, then through analysis, the music essence of each subject scale becomes apparent by its intervals, which provides a basis for experimentation. We help you to think creatively by considering each scale's unique and special interval relationships, which influence its sound, feel, and use. The text interval analysis charts help to guide you towards finding interesting musical patterns that are inherent within every scale. They're designed to fuel your melodic creativity and assist with finding interesting uses for any subject scale towards the creation of your own music. So get MAMI and go create. Intervallic analysis of chords and scales help to identify potential patterns within these elements that you can use. So when we look at the actual MAMI scale intervallic text for our subject, the C major 7th with an added flatted 5th scale, we notice that there's actually a higher number of major 2nd / minor 7th intervals as well as perfect 4th / perfect 5th intervals, and that they both contain 5 within the scale. And so as an example, you might want to try to develop some melodic patterns that involve major second or minor sevenths or perfect fourths or perfect fifths, just because there's a higher number. And that's kind of an example of how you can look at a scale and experiment and play around just to find new ideas, new harmonies, new melodies, and new patterns that within a scale or a chord that you can exploit to create music that suits your sound and your style. Last but not least is element 8, the MAMI text chord chart. The eighth and final element that's integrated onto each scale analysis page in each version of the MAMI Musical Scale Atlas is the text chord chart. The MAMI text chord chart gives you an extremely simple text reference to show all arpeggios, chords, or inversions present using each degree of the subject scale as the root tone. And basically this element simplifies and interprets the results of the matrix chordal cube. With this you have the ability to consider a scale, glance at our book, and quickly know all of the harmonic or chordal elements, from basic major and minor triads all the way through to the largest chord extensions. And it's a really powerful tool. You look and you see right away this chord has a major triad or a minor triad on through any possible extensions. It's sick. It is sick. When we take a look at the actual MAMI scale chordal analysis text for our subject, the C major 7th with an added flatted 5th note, we see some pretty interesting chords that are possible. Of course we have the C major from the root note. C major 7th with a flatted 5th chord is possible. But what's really interesting is when we go to the second degree, we have a D minor triad that's possible. And we can also make a D major triad. From those we could form a D minor 7th or a D dominant 7th, and then add the extensions of 9th, 11th, or 13th. The other really significant chord that stands out is from the flatted 5th degree, or based on the G flat note, you can form a G flat minor flatted 5 triad with possible extensions of a flatted 7th or a major 7th or flatted 9th or an 11th or a flatted 13th. So in this way you can look very quickly and see what chords and triads you can use from this scale to create some pretty significant and meaningful music. When you're trying to create with the chords or scales, hopefully you use the MAMI matrix cubes, but even if you don't, the MAMI descriptive text plus analysis sections will translate the cube's analysis with further insight into the subject's musical potential, plus it'll provide you with helpful suggestions to creatively experiment with musical chords and scales, harmonies and melodies. For chords, inversions, scales, and modes, put it all together with MAMI. MAMI Musical Scale Atlas Analysis will take your teaching, studying, instrumental awareness, improvisation, and composing to unlimited levels by giving you the power of our one-of-a-kind integrated efficient system. Using MAMI gives you the most comprehensive reference available on the planet for knowledge of both your instrument as well as all of those fundamental music relationships, notes, intervals, chords, inversions, modes, patterns that are necessary for learning and creating and ultimately improvisation. MAMI is an incredible, unique, integrated learning and teaching tool. Incorporating just a few minutes a day of analysis, experiment, and study using MAMI will reap tremendous rewards on the road to mastery for your keyboard, bass, or guitar studies. Why teachers and instructors love MAMI. MAMI Musical Scale Atlases can be used with students on all levels and of all abilities. MAMI is used as a valuable reference book and material that is incorporated into the excellent instructor's own teaching method and materials without conflict and independent of musical style or genre. A small investment in MAMI literally supports a lifetime of study. It is impossible to outgrow and contains several lifetimes of musical ideas within. Why students love MAMI too. MAMI Musical Scales Atlases are used worldwide by students of all levels and all abilities. MAMI Atlases are used as reference books for both formally and self-taught musicians because they support any teaching method and other materials without conflict and independent of musical style or genre. MAMI helps players to find their own paths on the instrument, to develop their own style, creative ideas, compositions, and artistry. A small investment in MAMI literally supports a lifetime of study and creativity. From beginner to master, it is impossible to outgrow and contains several lifetimes of musical ideas. Every student that has purchased their MAMI Musical Scales Atlas continues to treasure their purchase, and any student that is truly committed to their progress will go farther and faster with it. Get MAMI Instrument Diagram book, pages, and downloads from www.mamimusic.com. That's www.mamimusic.com. You can buy the MAMI Complete version, which is huge, 572 pages, 45 chords and scales analyzed times 12 root tones, for a total of 45 MAMI diagrams. Plus, you'll get, for a limited time, 45 MP3 diatonic audio tunes along with their PDF lead sheets. If you want to save money, you can buy the MAMI Lite version book or download. It's 74 pages and contains 45 elements analyzed in C root only for a total of 45 MAMI diagrams. You also still get the limited time bonus 45 MP3 diatonic tunes, and you also get the PDF lead sheets. You can also purchase, as you go, single scale MAMI pages for download, and that would be one MAMI element, subject, chord, or scale in C root only. And we also give you, for a limited time, the 45 MP3 play along audio diatonic tunes and the PDF lead sheets. So no matter what your budget, you can enjoy MAMI and study MAMI and teach with MAMI. The MAMI Complete book and download, 572 pages, is a huge book, a resource and reference for life. Sure, the MAMI Complete version is 572 pages, big and thick, but we also give you a book that you can open flat on a music stand or a desk or a table for convenient use. You can purchase the MAMI Complete version for immediate download anywhere in the world and get a print-enabled Adobe PDF format MAMI Music Scale Atlas. Plus, for a limited time, get bonus 45 MP3 play-alongs and lead sheets for download. And your price is $19.99. Or you can get a MAMI pre-printed hard copy book with 45 MP3 play-along tunes and lead sheets on a CD disc. The hard copy price is $39.99 with free shipping. Hard copies are available to be shipped only to the USA. Go to www.mamimusic.com for ordering. Short on money but still want to have access to the MAMI analysis, diagrams, charts, and information? We'll order a MAMI Musical Scale Atlas Lite book version and study all essential subjects, but only using the C as the root note. You can order the MAMI print-enabled Adobe PDF for download, along with the limited time bonus 45 play-along MP3s and lead sheets for $6.99 from anywhere in the world. Or you can get the MAMI pre-printed hard copy book with limited time bonus 45 MP3 play-alongs with lead sheets on a CD disc. The hard copy price is $12.99 with free shipping. The hard copies are shipped to USA only. Once again, order at www.mamimusic.com. Really short on money but want to have access to MAMI analysis, diagrams, charts, and information? Order MAMI Musical Scales Atlas single scale downloads. You can buy for study individual subject, C-rooted, arpeggios, chords, and scales to pay as you study. The MAMI immediate download print-enabled Adobe PDF single scale price is $1.99. It includes the limited time bonus 45 play-along MP3s and lead sheet downloads. Once again, order from www.MAMIMUSIC.com. Order MAMI now and get started. For quick delivery or immediate download, go online to www.MAMIMUSIC.com. Make any old plain music scale plus your copy of MAMI Musical Scale Atlas become every musician's dream, the ability to quickly and easily be more creative. Gimme MAMI or gimme deaf. When ordering your MAMI Musical Scale Atlas, remember it's available as both a pre-printed book and as a print-enabled Adobe PDF file for download to your computer. MAMI Musical Scale Atlas pre-printed books are bound to open and lay flat so that you can use them easily on music stands, desks, tables, etc. MAMI Musical Scale Atlases are available for study on piano, keyboard instruments, bass guitar, plus many right and left-handed guitar tunings. Band members can study plus work together. For maximum studies, get the MAMI Musical Scale Atlas complete versions. At 580 pages thick, these reference books contain the patented integrated MAMI charts and analysis diagrams for 9 essential chords / arpeggios, 15 extended chords / pentatonics, plus 21 important scales using all 12 roots. That's 540 MAMI study pages. We also include a free bonus disc or download with all purchases that contain 46 tunes in MP3 format. Each tune is original and created diatonically from a study arpeggio, pentatonic, or scale using C as the root tone. This way you can literally hear the music and the subjects as you see and study them on the MAMI analysis pages. Finally, we include the bonus disc or download for music sheets for all 46 tunes. Each contains the transcribed notes, the traditional format for each tune in PDF. No other music reference on the market or planet comes close to MAMI. In summary, MAMI is short for Matrix Approach to Music Improvisation. It's an integrated visual system designed to more easily see, learn, study, and teach the musical potential of chords, scales, and modes. MAMI is a unique, comprehensive approach that allows for quick visual analysis of chords and scales, including all necessary note plus interval values, plus all inversions and modes on an instrument. Why do teachers and students buy MAMI Musical Scale Atlases? Because MAMI Musical Scale Atlases are world-famous, one-of-a-kind reference books that are optimized for chord studies and teaching on keyboard, bass, and guitar. MAMI Musical Scale Atlases are not instrumental study methods. They're the world's best chords, scales, and modes books. They do not show you how to play or how to teach keyboards, bass, or guitar. Rather, they are references that simply and effectively help to open up the process of finding, learning, and more completely mastering the unlimited potential ideas for chords, scales, as well as modes use on these instruments. Like car drivers use maps, a road atlas, or a GPS to navigate roads, a teacher or instrumentalist uses MAMI musical scales to navigate the unlimited musical potential and ideas inherent in chords, inversions, scales, and modes on their instrument. There's nothing left to say. For samples and ordering, go to www.MAMIMUSIC.com. Thanks for your interest and your support in your purchase.